So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iOS versus One UI, which has been better? Now, this is a natural carryover from the last video where we discussed iOS versus Android, and technically the Samsung phone does run the Android system, but it's mostly a Samsung experience, and I want to discuss which software has been better over time here. So I want to begin with navigation between iOS and the One UI. So on iOS, we kind of navigate through the home screens this way to get through applications, and then off to the left you do have some widgets that you can place right here. And also when it comes to the newer iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Pro, 10s, iPhone 10, you know, of course at this point we have some of the smoothest gesture in the business, so very smooth gestures. And going through the applications, you're gonna go left to right on this phone. Now you can swipe away like this, and you can clear a couple at a time. Sometimes you could even clear up to 3 at a time, so that's pretty neat here for the iPhone 11, for example. Now, the Galaxy S20 also can navigate very similar. So we're gonna swipe left to right for application. You can also turn on Samsung Daily here on the Samsung device. And also you can have an app drawer, or you can just have a home screen here for navigating the home screen for the Samsung. So again, it's coming down to options here as always with the Android devices, but Samsung makes it even more option packed because when it comes to navigation, of course, you have the gestures, and you'll notice the animation is pretty similar. And unlike the Pixel and the stock version of Android, you have to swipe all the way over to get to clear all. It's right here. So just hit close all, and you can close all of the applications. Get to your notifications, it's going to be up here as well as your toggles. Now, if we go into settings here and we type in navigation bar, this is where things start to get a little bit interesting for the Samsung series. Now, the reason why is because in navigation bar, we can use full screen gestures, but we have the option to hide the bar. Not only that, we have the option to have navigation buttons, and we have the option to change those navigation buttons to either side that feels comfortable. So you can have that older Android feel. And over here on full screen gestures, you can also kind of have gesture hints at the bottom, and we could change those to swipe from the bottom. You could see the buttons down here exactly where to go. So I think in terms of navigation, while the iPhone is pretty simple, you'll get used to the gestures, Samsung gives you multiple ways to navigate your Galaxy phone. And for that reason, I find it a little bit more enjoyable, because if sometimes I'm feeling like using the gestures, I'll use them. Sometimes I want to use buttons, I'll use the buttons. If I don't know what to press, it's got the little hints down here. So I do think Samsung has a better way of navigating in terms of giving you options of which you prefer. When it comes to how smooth these gestures feel, I got to say that the Samsung phone with the 120 Hz has caught up to Apple in terms of how smooth it feels. But still, the iPhone seems to be the smoother implementation from the start, and Samsung kind of needed this 120 Hz to catch up to that feel. So still very smooth on pretty much any iPhone that has the gesture-based system. So the next thing I want to discuss with iOS is kind of the user elements. Same thing with the Samsung One UI. They bring a lot of things down here for One UI 2.1 on the Samsung phone, and they also have them there on iOS as well. You'll also see this in like clock, for example. Things come down, whereas in clock over here, not so much on the iPhone. It's not quite as far down. So I do think that the Samsung Galaxy phone actually is easier to use with one hand than the iPhone experience is. Not that it's that hard on the iPhone, but things are just a little bit lower down on the screen, so you can easily reach things. So for a one-handed experience, I do think Samsung wins out here. Now, which one actually has the better one-handed mode? Well, I'll tell you right here. Well, right here on the iPhone, you have reachability, so you can kind of just swipe down and you can kind of get to it. Now, over time, I find this to be very intuitive. As long as you remember that the iPhone does this, you'll find this very intuitive. The Samsung device, it actually has a dedicated one-handed mode. You'll swipe down like that, similar to the iPhone if you're in the gestures mode. It's a little bit different if you're in the navigation keys, but still, you can just swipe down like that. Now, the difference though is that the Samsung phone actually has a full dedicated one-handed mode. So like it's the full phone there in the one-handed section. So if you want it to be fully, one-handed, you'll probably like the Samsung more. But again, if you want more flexibility and just using it one hand the entire phone, again, that's kind of a very feature-rich experience on the Samsung. So they both do have incredible options when it comes to one-handed use. So it's mid-2020, and who is doing the better, notification system? Well, for me, I think that's Samsung, mostly because, and it's not really Samsung, it's really the Android OS doing this. So you could just give Android credit, but it's because it groups notifications together a lot cleaner than Apple does. So when you get multiple messages, they all come separate on the iPhone, whereas on the Samsung, everything's grouped very clean. You can also like kind of bring it up like that and get it out of the way. You can also remind yourself to show this notification later. I just think it's more interactive and it's better grouped on the, Samsung phone. So for me, the Samsung phone is the better phone for notifications. Okay guys, so when it comes to their control center versus the notifications panel, first things first, I do like how Samsung has brought the brightness slider down. I think that's a lot easier to use than, up here. I mean, this is still easy, but it's just more one-handed centric here for the Samsung right here. Now, secondly, I like that you can adapt brightness, change the auto brightness right here on the fly. You don't have to go into settings, display and text size, scroll down to the bottom, we're at auto brightness. That is just ridiculous amount of steps to change auto brightness. So I hope Apple puts that in iOS 14. I also want to mention, I do think that the iPhones looks a little bit more minimal and clean though than the Samsung device. But at the same time, you're getting everything in the kitchen sink right here. All the features that you need to control. I mean, down to, we have wireless power share here, scanning QR codes. You can link to your Windows laptop. You have dark theme right here, Bixby routine, screen recording. Oh, by the way, Samsung does give you a screen recorder as well. In addition, you could change the edge lighting. I mean, everything is here. You can even power off right here. You can search right here. I mean, it's all here. It's like a very, very in-depth part of this experience. Also, you can go to settings. And if you go over here, you can go to button order and you could just take things out. You can reset it, add stuff. There's a lot going on and everything is controlled right there. You don't have to go into the settings. Whereas with the iPhone, we're going to go over here, back again. We're going to go to control center, customize control. You see it's already like 3 steps to get here. And we have to change the orders here. You can't see exactly how it's going to look. You'll have to swipe through these like this. And then you'll have to pull it down to see where it actually sits in the control center. I mean, this stuff is just more steps and it's just not as easy to see what's going on as a Samsung. However, you could state that, well, the Samsung looks a little bit messy. There's too much going on there. So it's pretty close here. I think it's going to come down to, you like a minimal look, or do you like a feature pack look where you can control your entire phone basically right here. Okay guys, so we've talked about widgets. If we swipe over to the left, there's widgets on the left. Now for the Samsung, like any Android device, we're gonna hit widgets and they're all in here. Now Samsung actually has their own clock and stuff like that. But other than that, of course, it's a lot more in depth than the widgets experience for the iPhone. And you could see here's a widget for the Samsung phone. And it's just a lot more, you could put it anywhere you want on the screen. So when it comes to the assistants, we do have Bixby on the Samsung device, which does basically the same stuff as Siri does over here on the left, but it has like this home feed, it has a marketplace with advertisements in it, which I don't really prefer. But at the same time, some people do really like how Bixby learns as it goes what you're saying. Now Siri over here, set an alarm for 2:35 p.m. You can see that it will do it.
I've set an alarm for 2:35 p.m.
In terms of Bixby as well, set an alarm for 2:35 p.m. You'll see it'll do it pretty quickly as well.
Your alarm will ring in 5 hours.
So they both are pretty functional for most everyday tasks. However, what I don't like about the Samsung experience is that it also couples the Google Assistant with this phone. So you could kind of swipe from the bottom and you also have Google, which is what I'm using most of the time. So it's just kind of like this mashup of 2 assistants. I don't really prefer that. I understand the Bixby makes sense on here. It's their own, assistant, but if they had their own software, it would make even more sense. But since this is an Android system, it kind of just seems like it's an extra feature that you should give the user the choice to use. And if we go ahead and try to delete Bixby, you could see you cannot get rid of this. You can just not get rid. I mean, I'm sure there's way of workarounds you can get rid of it, but it should be an option to install instead of being forced upon the user here, as this is still an Android phone at the end of the day. One area where Samsung is still shining over iOS is the ability to kind of place apps wherever you want on the screen. Like you could put it anywhere. And not only that, Samsung goes a little bit deeper here, because if we go into home screen settings, we also can change the grid size that we want, which is very nice customization. Of course, you can just have the all apps on the home screen if you don't prefer having an app drawer. This gives Samsung kind of the best of both worlds. If you want more customization, all you have to do is go to themes here and you could totally tweak the way this phone will look in terms of themes. And not only that, it comes down to even the icons. So if you just want to change the icons, there's tons of icon packs as well. Some of them are paid, but they're often pretty cheap. And also you can get a lot of free ones, but you can change every little aspect about this phone. You have a wallpaper here for the iPhone, and you have folders. And don't get me wrong, I do like the folders. I actually think the folders look cleaner. See, I actually had to change the color to all be similar here to match up. But you can tweak them out, the different folder colors here for Samsung, but I just think it looks more clean on the iPhone. Other than that though, the customization is a lot more in-depth on the Samsung, of course. Okay guys, so now let's go ahead and show you one area where Samsung has beat out Apple on this one, and it's just the landscape rotation. I want to see this on iPhone 11, and this doesn't apply to all iPhones. This only applies to the 10, the 10s, the 10R, the 11. The Plus models do have it, but there's no official Plus model anymore for sale, so that's kind of gone within the whole lineup for iPhone. So that's just a feature I wanted to showcase there. Now, I will say that I do like the universal search better on iPhone. I don't like swiping up to get to it here and searching here. I just think it's easier to swipe down and you're in the universal search. So iPhone's gonna take the win there. Next up is how they handle multiple apps. So you know here, for iPhone, you're not really multitasking ever. It's a single page, and this gets rather annoying, especially if you're trying to do something on the fly really quick. You can do a lot of stuff here with the Samsung all at the same time. We have a little calculator button right there. We can also pop this thing down, this pop view in the weather. Maybe we're looking at the weather, we're calculating what's going on. Hold up, let me do it real quick again. Messed up there. You can see we have two bubbles in there right now. Not only that, Samsung does have the Edge panel giving you even more functionality on the side over here. I mean, what more could you want from a phone? I mean, this phone has everything. It's here. If you can think of it, it's probably going to work on the Samsung. Now over here, I do like the focus of one app at a time sometimes on the iPhone though. I mean, your brain can only concentrate on so much at a time. So sometimes the Samsung can get a little overwhelming if you're doing all those things at once. So both this iPhone, the Samsung devices, they both have a very similar amount of stock apps they give you. Like they both give you a measuring app on both of them. They both give you compass. They both give you a voice recorder. You have to download the voice recorder on the Samsung phone, but they both give you a music app. Again, some of them you have to download on the Samsung, but Samsung kind of has all those apps to kind of match up with Apple. Some people will like, you know, one or the other on either platform, maybe a little bit more. But at the same time, you do have a lot of ecosystem going on for both of these. I mean, you can really get invested in the Samsung ecosystem the same way you can get invested into the Apple ecosystem. You get the Apple Watch, you can get a Samsung laptop, you can get a Samsung watch, you can get a Samsung tablet, you can get an Apple tablet, an Apple Watch, and an Apple computer. I mean, you can kind of get the whole, you know, variety of Samsung products to go with the Samsung phone, just like you can do with the iPhone. I don't think it's quite as popular. Not as many people probably know that you can do all that. Yeah, I just gotta state, one thing I just noticed is just how much more similar they're getting in 2020. I mean, almost everything Apple kind of does, it's over here on Samsung as well, just in a different format. Okay, so when it comes to unlocking the phones, the Samsung phone does have the in-display fingerprint sensor. Most of them are getting that now. So most of the One UI phones you're gonna use have an in-display fingerprint sensor, and most of them have just a camera face unlock, which is, I don't understand. Samsung had an iris scanner, much more secure, than they go to this unsecure, you know, face unlock and swapped it out for the in-display fingerprint sensor. I would have liked to seen the iris continue, or at least get better, improve, or some kind of facial recognition that's a little more secure like the iPhones. But they're kind of opposite here in that the iPhone has no fingerprint sensor, but it gives you the Face ID. Now, of course, I know there's some other iPhones that do have the fingerprint sensors, but those don't have Face ID. So both of these have great unlocking methods. It's just down to preference. Now, when it comes to accessing the cameras, I do find that Apple needs to get some kind of quick launch feature. A lot of phones offer like a double tap or something. Now, I know you can just kind of just hold this down really quickly here, but I kind of like that anywhere you're in the phone, you could just double click that power button on the Samsung device and you're in the photo taking section, the viewfinder, excuse me. You could see you're right in there, and that goes for anywhere. You could be on the lock screen with the phone off, it'll go right into the camera. You can go ahead and swipe from the bottom corner, so that's kind of similar to the Apple feature. And of course, they both do have, you know, nice camera software on both of them. I will state though that the camera software for the Samsung is a lot more, I'm going to say, professional feeling. Everything is right there. You have the Pro mode right there. You have the Pro video mode. You have live focus. They're throwing everything here and it looks cleaner than before. Also, I will state that getting to essentially all your features seems a little bit easier for the Samsung. You just hit the settings icon up there and everything is right in the camera app. Now, Apple has gotten a bit better here in 2020 with this, as they've added the ability to change your video there, and you could kind of just swipe up here to get to some different aspect ratios and stuff, some very important features. But some things you still have to go into the camera settings to change. So I do have to state though, I think Apple should still put a settings icon to get right to the settings in their camera software. Other than that, I think they're both pretty similar in how they use the cameras. And that brings me on to the shortcuts on screen. When you hold down the camera, you have photo, video. Apple is much better when it comes to shortcuts from the app. So the Samsung experience doesn't really do much here in the way of holding down. It just kind of wants to let you select items and get rid of stuff. I mean, you can see a few little shortcuts at the bottom, but it's just a lot better here for the iPhone when it comes to quick shortcuts. So let's talk security and privacy. Now, Apple prides themselves on this, and they're always updating their software. They have a lot of privacy on this phone. I mean, it doesn't really feel like it's following you a lot with advertisements. You can also turn things off here in advertising, limiting your ad tracking. In terms of security, we're talking about, Face ID on here, very secure system. You could use passcode unlock as well. And the fact that they keep updating it with new security patches all the time is nice, but you've been getting a lot of that for Samsung as well lately. Like every month there's an update on the Galaxy S20, for example. Also, I gotta state that Samsung is combining Android's, security, what Google can do, also with Samsung Knox. So it's kind of like two things in one. So the Samsung phone is also very, very secure as well. You can also use the secure folder on this phone, which is like where you can store your own stuff and nobody can get in but you. So lots of security on both of them, and they both have wallets. So you have Samsung Pay on here and Apple Pay. Now, Samsung Pay works in more locations, I feel like, but Apple has come a long way. A lot of retailers have got on board and both can pay online. Samsung is also going to be releasing a Samsung Pay debit card soon if they haven't already. But one thing I will state about the Samsung Pay is that there's awards you can get, like rewards for shopping with Samsung Pay, which is something you still don't get with Apple Pay over here. Now, one thing I like about both phones is that they both have the ability to kind of just swipe back to your last thing. So if we go over here, let's go to target.com and we swipe back like this, you can see I can go back. Now with this Android phone though, this is a Samsung phone, it still has that feature from, we talked about the Android versus iOS where you can kind of swipe from either side to get up out of there. So I do think it's easier to navigate out of stuff on the Samsung now because you could do it from both sides. Whereas with the iPhone, you're going to do it from basically one side to go back, and you have to be within certain applications and doing certain things. So we can go here and then we could swipe here and you see it doesn't do anything. So certain apps just don't do it on the iPhone, whereas you can do it in basically any app here for the Samsung. Now, both of them do have nice features when it comes to parental controls, as well as, restrictions, digital well-being over here for the Samsung device. You can also use this wind down mode on One UI that allows you to kind of just at nighttime, it'll grayscale your phone. So it's not burning your eyes at night. You could just kind of wind down and just hit the hey, go to sleep, knock out. Yeah, so I think both of them here are pretty nice and trying to help you stop using your phone so much. If you want one of those features, both of them do just fine here. When it comes to power saving modes, Apple does feature low power mode on the Samsung phone. We are talking medium, maximum, high performance modes. It'd be nice to see a maximum power mode here for the iPhone, I would say. I mean, you don't have to over complicate it, just put one more. So I do like the Samsung's power modes a little bit better just because there's more tweaking you could do with that battery and how you're gonna, drain it throughout the day. So when it comes to their long-term software support, Apple and Samsung are both giving you pretty decent software support, especially the Apple phone if you want the long 5-year support. Samsung gonna be around 2 to 3. I think They're going to get better as we go, but right now Apple is still king of giving you long-term support. Here's the thing though, I think a lot of people are going to upgrade before 5 years. So if you're going to be using a phone 2 to 3 years, you'll probably have more fun on the Samsung phone, to be quite honest with you. But if you just like, no, I don't care about phones, there's other things that are more important, I just want one phone that's going to last for a super long time, Apple's still winning. So when it comes to the messaging experience, of course, the iMessage system, a little bit ahead of Samsung's here in terms of, you know, everyone's using it. You can just text everybody, real simple. It's kind of like an online messenger, whereas you'll probably have to use some other messaging app if you want to have that same functionality with the Samsung device. Now hold this space bar right here. It has cursor control just like the iPhone. This is one of my favorite features on both of these, and this is within the Samsung keyboard. One thing I really like about the Samsung phone is the ability to schedule out messages. You can literally schedule a message and send it at any time you want to someone at the exact moment, the exact day. You have the best emojis in the game, I think, over here on the Apple phone, and both of them do support swipe texting. Hey, what is up? Hey, what is up? What if up? What is up? So both of them have a good typing experience. Both of them have a lot of features within their messages app. It's just that I feel like the Apple phone, you can see your read messages, you can see when people are typing to you. It's just a little bit more of an online messenger kind of feel. And I get a lot of comments saying, for communications, I just got to use the iPhone's iMessage. But, you know, at least you can see there is an effort to try to catch up here on the Samsung phone. So you do have a lot of fun you can have on here. It's not like you're just gonna have it's not like having a Samsung phone, you just have nothing you can use. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this phone. Okay guys, so talking about app quality, I think they both are featuring a lot of great apps. I mean, at this point, I don't think the apps are making the biggest difference anymore, but still, if there's certain apps that you've already invested in for the iPhone and you just can't get on Android, it could make all the difference. I do think the Play Store and the App Store are pretty comparable at this point. It's not like you're missing out on a lot of apps anymore. Both of them have most of the mainstream apps. Now in clock, I want to give the strength to the iPhone for having a bedtime mode. Now I'm sure Samsung's going to have this feature soon, but they don't have it right now within the clock. Also, I do want to state that both of these do have a very nice dark mode, but I like Samsung's dark mode more, and I'll tell you why. The reason why is because Apple's dark mode doesn't get dark in every single app, whereas Samsung, even in the internet browser, it's fully dark. Like, it's not fully dark in Safari at nighttime on the iPhone over here in dark mode. So if I go to Safari, you can see it's still bright. Like, I want that dark as well. If I go into news, yeah, this part of it is dark. Let's go to some COVID news, for example. If I click one of these articles, you can see this stuff is still super bright as well. So just, it's more dark in the dark mode for the Samsung. In addition, they both do have a night light. You have night light over here, night shift. You have blue light filter over here. No true tone mode here for the Samsung, but you kind of really don't need one. If you go over to display, you can change all kinds of stuff with the screen, like vivid, natural, and you could tweak it to your exact liking. So you do have a lot of display functionality here. You can even change the resolution, something you can't do on the Apple phone. So for every feature, there's a benefit on the Apple, there's one that's a benefit on the Samsung. And one of the key benefits to the Samsung is the always on display. This is something that is beating out the Apple phone still. In addition to that, you can change it to tap to show, you can schedule it, you can even change the clock styles down to any clock style you would like. Just a nice function to have for a phone. You don't have that even though you have OLED panels on the iPhones. This one's not included. Another key strength here, I'm going to give it to the Samsung, is the ability to see your battery percentage without having to swipe down. Now over here for the iPhone, you have to swipe down here to see that battery percentage on iOS. Now this doesn't hold true if you have an older iPhone, but I'm talking about 2020 phones right here in this video. Okay, so we're coming up near the end of this comparison, so I want to just discuss which one has been easier to use. And well, I think that if you get into the features, Samsung can get a little bit complex. If you start digging around and messing around with this phone, you can get some stuff a little bit messy. Apple doesn't really give you a lot of options, so it's always going to be, you know, pretty simple. So I do think that both of them are easy to use if you don't really tweak around with the Samsung phone too much. then they're both basically equal. But it really comes down to what the user is used to. If you're used to using an iPhone, this is going to be night and day easy. If you're used to using the Samsung phone, this is going to be night and day easy once again. So in my last video, some people were upset that I didn't pick a winner. They want me to be biased towards one. Say, Nick, bro, I didn't come here for you to say they're equal. I came here for you to say one is better than the other. But the fact of the matter is, this video is titled Which Has Been Better, so I'm going to tell you which one has been better. The Samsung phone has been better this year. It's been more fun to use. There's more features. There's pretty much everything Apple's offering, but that doesn't take away from Apple's key strengths and their ecosystem, their iMessage, their FaceTime, their great applications. We're used to this experience already. Yes, this is still strong, but for me, this year, Samsung has been the better software for me to use. But for me, this year, I found the Samsung just more fun to use. It's just got the features that's lacking on the iPhone. It's got the features that I want to use that are not there sometimes on the iPhone, and everything that this phone can do, I can basically do it here as well. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, enjoyable, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here helping you to master your technology. I will catch you all in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching, and peace.